In a move likely to delight Brexiteer MPs, the PM will balance her Remain-dominated cabinet by moving up younger Brexit-voting MPs as well as appointing a Minister for No Deal. The minister who will occupy the new role will be charged with preparing for a Brexit scenario that sees the UK and the EU not reaching a divorce agreement. The official would attend cabinet meetings and be in Brexit Secretary David Davis's department, but wouldn't have the rank of Secretary of State. It is not yet clear who will be appointed to the position, but the gesture would be welcomed among ardent Brexitbackers who want to make sure Mrs. May doesn't go soft in the last months of the exit negotiations. Brexiteers have long urged Mrs. May to be ready to walk away from a bad deal, and contingency planning is needed to make the threat of a walkout more credible. Theresa May will launch her reshuffle today. But what does it mean for Brexit? You've always got to make it clear in any negotiation that no deal is better than a bad deal. Lord Howard, but tight-purse Chancellor of the Exchequer Philip Hammond has been reluctant to commit funds for contingency planning before they are needed. Mrs. May faces the second year of her premiership with renewed calls for her to leave the EU without a deal as it becomes clear that the exit agreement won't include much detail on the future relationship, and lawmakers and voters will wonder what the UK is getting in return for its £40 billion exit bill. The UK has maintained that it wants a whole Brexit deal completed by exit day on top of a 2-year transitional agreement. The EU has been adamant that this is achievable. It isn't clear whether a simple statement of intent of a UK-EU relationship post-Brexit will be legally binding. His new minister will work with Brexit Secretary David Davis. Lord Howard, who led the party from 2003 to 2005, has welcomed the prospect of a no-deal minister. He told BBC Radio 4 Yesterday programme, "I certainly think you've always got to make it clear in any negotiation that no deal is better than a bad deal, because if you go into any negotiation saying I've got to have a deal at any price, you're going to be taken to the cleaners, which is what I feel would happen if Mr. Corbyn was in charge of these negotiations." Lord Howard also called on Theresa May to bring in some fresh faces from the 2015 and 2017 intakes. Theresa May will kick off the reshuffle from 11 a.m. today. The challenge facing the Prime Minister today, what she will want to do is to give fresh impetus to the government, and there is an array of talent on the backbenches and in junior ministerial positions, he said. There really is, particularly but not exclusively those who have entered Parliament relatively recently, and I hope and I believe that the Prime Minister will seize this opportunity to give some of those people a chance to show what they can do. On Sunday, Theresa May reiterated that by the time we leave the EU, we want to have agreed what the future relationship between us and the EU is going to be. She added that UK lawmakers would get a vote on the withdrawal agreement before the European Parliament does. Health Secretary Jeremy Hunt is speculated to be appointed first Secretary of State. Mrs. May's number 2 to the New Year reshuffle will kick off from 11 a.m. today, according to reports. Numerous cabinet ministers have been tipped for demotion, with Education Secretary Justine Greening, Tory party chairman Patrick McLaughlin, and Business Secretary Greg Clark reportedly vulnerable. However, the so-called Big Four of Mr. Hammond, Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson, Mr. Davis and Home Secretary Amber Rudd are expected to be safe. Health Secretary Jeremy Hunt may be promoted to Mrs. May's number 2 First Secretary of State, replacing Damian Green, who quit after a pornography scandal.